Here we go. Money talk.
Here comes the money. Money, money, money.
Dollar, dollar. Dollar, dollar.
Welcome back to another episode of the Easy Dubs podcast. Talking a little U.S. Open this week, going back to golf. We were talking a little bit basketball and hockey the last few weeks, so it's nice to kind of get back onto what I am most familiar with in terms of golf. And we got another major going this week and a lot of controversy, so lots to talk about. This week we have on CJ from @BettingTheBall on Twitter. CJ, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. I'm really excited to talk about the U.S. Open this weekend. Golf has turned into one of my favorite sports to watch and to bet on, especially with all the controversy. Major weekend, really doesn't get any better than this.
It's crazy because, a couple of weeks ago, it felt like there wasn't a ton of buzz around kind of the golf world. I mean, obviously there was the LIV has kind of been, making the headlines a little bit, but once it really kicked off, I feel like we just saw so much, so many outspoken guys and, from Rory, and then you get Phil obviously at the US Open and DJ, and you get a couple of these guys coming in this tournament. So I think it adds a lot of controversy and a lot of, just people are excited about what's going to happen. What are we watching right now? What's going to happen in the next kind of few years, few months with golf. But I think the US Open is a really fun tournament because it really brings out the best in a lot of players. And it's, again, probably the most challenging test. So let's just start off. I'd love to kind of get your take on where do you find the most value in betting the US Open? I mean, I guess majors in general or just golf tournaments, but this week is such an interesting week with, again, the best players in the world all coming together. So where are you finding value in terms of building your slate?
Yeah, so me, normally in any weekend tournament, I'm going to start with two guys to win it. I'm going to take one of the top five guys, the Rory, Justin Thomas, John Rahm. Then I'm going to take someone a little bit longer odds that I like. He's got some momentum. This week I'm going with Rahm, plus 1,200 to win it. Defending champ. He's got a little bit of his swagger kind of, walking around the course. You saw with his press conference talking about the live golf. You kind of tell he's got a little bit of swagger to him. And then Sam Burns, I got 30 to 1 as well. He's been playing some really, really good golf, always in the top 10. He stole that one from Scotty a couple weeks ago, and I had Scotty that weekend, so it was brutal. So I'm going to ride with him. But, finding value in the U.S. Open, they make the U.S. Open as hard as they possibly can. So I really don't see much value in taking these big long shots, right? Because over a 4-day tournament, with this course being extremely hard, the winning score might be only 4 under. Some guys are going to have days where they shoot 4 or 5 over. Just looking at the top guys is kind of where I see the value this weekend.
I think that's one of the things I've heard just when talking about majors, but I think the US Open really highlights that, that part of it where these guys are at the top for a reason, right? They're not, they're the betting favorites because they're playing the best golf and, they're in at the hardest tournament of the year. So I think I understand exactly where your head's at in terms of long shots maybe aren't going to be the guys we're looking at in the US Open. Some of these other tournaments, sure, you're going to find long shots making come ups and having great weeks, but I feel like this one is just really, it's such like a slog to get through the US Open. These guys just need to really just stay with it and, kind of keep themselves intact over 4 days, which I think some of these long shot guys, you're just not going to find that. One of the things, again, that we mentioned a little bit earlier is the live guys, right? We've got Phil, we got DJ, we got a ton of different guys, Sergio, right? Even Bryson, Patrick Reed. So a lot of, pretty big names, or at least they used to be big names. How do you see some of those guys faring this week? Do you think the controversy kind of affects their play, or obviously you're probably not thinking about that when you're building your slate, but it is, again, it's a personal thought when you're building, when you're trying to bet on certain guys, you want to know where their heads are at possibly, right?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, with all the controversy that these guys are getting, I don't think they're going to fare too well this weekend. A part of me would love for Phil to win this weekend, or Patrick Reed, one of these guys, just to win, just to stick it to the PGA. it would be incredible for the sport of golf. Talk about eyeballs. If Phil Mickelson, at the age of 50 or whatever he is, if he wins this after the live term, it would be incredible. I just don't think any of these guys are really going to do anything special this weekend. Of course, Dustin Johnson is their best shot to do anything. Bryson hasn't been great this year. He's had that injury. Patrick Reed hasn't been the same, in the past 3 years. I just don't see any of these guys faring too well this weekend.
Yeah, no, when you talk about Bryson, I think he's such a challenging figure right now because honestly, I think he was like what I heard is he was kind of like the one guy that actually said like I'm going because of the money.
Yeah.
And because it's easier on my schedule. All these other guys have kind of been beating around the bush. Oh, I want to improve the game of golf. I want to expand, whatever. Who cares? They were all just kind of saying stuff to say stuff. It seems just like they're talking heads. But I think what I appreciate about Bryson is he was actually honest about it. But then you think about his golf game, and it hasn't been anywhere close to what we were seeing in that kind of that later part of 2020. That post-COVID stretch where it seemed like nobody could beat him because he was just bombing it over everyone, and he was, lighting up these golf courses. But this feels a little bit different. This doesn't feel like that 2020 U.S. Open. This feels like he's kind of falling off. It doesn't, it would be kind of funny if he came out and won after all these injuries and stuff. But I definitely don't see Bryson competing very much this week. I think your Phil point is it would be kind of hilarious, honestly, if he were to really. I mean, the look that he's got going right now, I don't know if I could see him holding the trophy anytime soon. I don't know. He's again one of those controversial figures right now that I think some people want to see win to stick it to the PGA, like Greg Norman's been trying to do for with this whole series. But I think other people are like, nah, I'm good. I don't need to see Phil win. I'm not. He doesn't excite me these days. I don't know. How do you feel about that?
I mean, obviously, I want Phil to win, like I said, for the chaos. I just don't see it. Like, I don't think he's going to make the cut. He's just so in his own head. You said it yourself. Like, he just looks bad. Like, I don't want to, criticize the guy for the way he looks, but it's just like you can tell that there's some major stress on him, and it's going to affect his game. I kind of followed the live this past weekend. He didn't even play that great. I don't think he's going to do anything, really.
Yeah, no, I don't either. All right, we don't need to keep talking about these live guys. I think they're just, all they are is controversial figures. Nobody thinks they're really going to do that well. I don't think they're going to do that well. Let's go talk about, maybe let's go to the PGA Tour. Obviously, I don't know if you watched the RBC last weekend, but it was a really exciting tournament, and it was so fun to see Rory, JT, and Finau in that final group. But all three guys looked like they're just playing, really strong golf. And I think Rory is one of those guys, especially with all this live controversy, he's really come out as almost like the leader of the PGA. He tried to become, finally, he seems like he's taking over as like the face of the PGA after 10 years of kind of just, muddling through. But he obviously won last weekend. He seems like he's just oozing with confidence right now. How do you think Rory fares this week? Obviously, you said Rahm's kind of your guy at the top of the, at the leaders. But do you think Rory has a chance to fare well this week? Even for people looking to maybe bet him top 10 or top 5.
Yeah. So actually, last weekend I had Rory to win plus 800. Wasn't the biggest odds because the field wasn't too stacked or anything. But you said it, man. Like, he was playing some really, really special golf, especially in that last day where he was 6 under through 10. He had a couple bogeys, couple bad shots, but he still pulled it out, birdie the last 2 holes. It was really special. I do see some value in him. Personally, I don't love betting guys who just had a great weekend the week before a big tournament or any tournament, really. Kind of just water always finds its level kind of thing. I understand like hot streaks and cold streaks part of sports. But sometimes the lines move a little bit too much for my liking. Rory being the betting favorite, I think he should be, behind Justin Thomas, Rom, and Scotty Scheffler personally. So, taking him top 20, I wouldn't hate. Top 10 maybe, but I don't see him going back-to-back weekends.
Yeah, no, I think I agree with you on that one. This sport is so difficult to win back-to-back tournaments, even to compete in back-to-back tournaments. I think when we did our Masters show, Scotty Scheffler he was hot as a firecracker coming in, right? He had won like 3 of 5, and I brought it up to the guys. I was like, I think he was plus 1,600, and so I was like, there's a chance, like that's not the worst odds considering he's 4th or 5th in terms of betting favorites. So that was kind of one of my guys where I was like, God, it's hard not to like this guy right now because of how hot he is, because he's just, again, like you mentioned earlier with Rahm's swagger, he had that swagger, and Rory feels like he might just have that a little bit of swagger right now. So maybe it's just a personal bias. I am a big Rory fan, so I love seeing him win and I love seeing him compete. But I think, I agree with you on, it is hard to go back to back, but a guy like that with so much confidence going into this week, I got to imagine that he's at least sticking around for the weekend. As I like to say, I think he's the greatest Sunday backdoor top 10 player in the world. I mean, it's incredible what he can do on Sundays to just sneak into the big money. But it is funny watching him. He kind of is an up and down player. He has those really hot weeks, and then he can crumble some weeks. So it'll be interesting to see how he does. But after last week, I'm just hoping he stays hot, and I think he's just fiery, and I like how he's really chirping back at Greg Norman. How do you think that's all going down? I don't know how you feel about the whole Greg Norman Rory beef right now.
Yeah, I don't know much about it, so I couldn't really give you a whole explanation of my side of things. I mean, whenever a guy's chirping another guy for the amount of times they won, I love that. But personally, Greg Norman and Rory don't know a whole much about it. But I will say, when you said Rory sneaking into the top 10, like, he's one of those guys where when there's no pressure on him, and like he's shooting early on a Sunday, like he just sneaks up. He's like 6 under on the day. It just makes no sense. I feel like there's a big difference between no pressure on Rory and pressure on him, which I think there is going to be a little bit pressure on him. With all the Liv controversy, him being the leader of that and coming off a win, I think it might be a little bit too much for him.
Yeah, I think that's a completely fair point. I think there's levels to this, right? I think there is the pressure that comes in, especially after a win. You can imagine that people are, it seems like all the eyes are on him right now. They're on him, and they're on DJ and on some of those guys. But I think that's really where, a guy like Rahm, who it seems like maybe is even sneaking under the radar a little bit right now, which doesn't make any sense, obviously, because it's Jon Rahm. But even like Scotty Scheffler, I feel like maybe, he didn't have a fabulous finish at the RBC. He was kind of, I think he ended up maybe top 20 or middle of the pack. He wasn't doing, he played good golf. He made money, but he's not, he's not walking away with the trophy, right? So that's where I think, maybe a guy like Scotty Scheffler, after the year he's had, maybe he just has a little bit of red ass in him and thinks, why not? Let's kick it into gear this week and have some fun, and maybe, a little bit of pressure off him is he still the world number one? I feel like he might still be the world number one. Yeah.
Pretty sure.
He was killing. He's been killing it in the FedEx standings. I think he's up 1,000 points or something right now, but it's not even really close. I'd love to go over a couple of these first round matchups. I think these can be a pretty fun way to bet the US Open, just because you get some really star-studded, pairings. One of the first ones I saw, again, going back to your guy Rahm, obviously you think he has a really good chance to win. But in the first 2 rounds, I guess, in the first 2 rounds, he's playing with Morikawa. And so I love Morikawa, I think, against anyone is just a fun matchup, just because he's just, he's a smiley guy, but he's really intense, and he's got like this kind of good, his iron game is just so incredible to watch. If you're looking at that, let's say that matchup, is there a way that you're leaning? Obviously, Rahm is one of your favorites, but do you think Morikawa maybe over the first few days has a chance to, maybe if you find him with slightly better odds than Rahm, do you think he would be a decent bet to make on that first day or second day?
Personally, I'm not going to take because I'm big on Rom. I think he's going to win, obviously. But in the matchups, Morikawa, with his iron game, it's really special. In a course like this where it's going to be tough, you're going to need your irons to be playing well. Actually, the last couple months or so, Morikawa's been a fade for me. He's kind of been struggling a little bit in these matchups because, how big he was last year, how big of a name. He's going up against top guys. Like, I was getting matchups, him versus Scotty Scheffler, him against JT. It's just, I saw some value actually going against him. This weekend, maybe not so much just because the way he plays and how, that's really going to favor in the U.S. Open. So maybe in a day 3 where he's got a nice matchup, I would look for him there.
Yeah, I think there's a chance maybe, again, like you said, maybe he struggles the first few days, makes the cut on kind of that, right on the line or a couple strokes above the line. And again, maybe he gets a nice matchup, with an amateur or someone that's maybe a little bit further down on the odds that you think, lasts for 2 days, but maybe he doesn't last on moving day. Saturday can really brings out the best in players. I think it makes them really forces their hand to make a push towards Sunday. So I like Morikawa. He's a Bay Area guy in terms he went to Cal, and I'm a Bay Area guy originally. So, and obviously he won out at TPC a couple of years ago, and that was always pretty fun. So I just always kind of root for Colin. I think he's a fun guy to watch. He's a good young guy for the sport, and I think that Raw Morikawa matchup could end up being really interesting. Just to see how they do, and see if he really makes a charge and or maybe just can set himself up well for the weekend. One of the other matchups I was looking at that I really liked, again, personal preference. I like some of these guys: Justin Thomas, Victor Hovland, Tony Finau. Wow, that's 3 big names in the sport right now, right? And a couple of bombers. Finau just hits the ball so long, and JT is electric in his own right. How do you see that pairing, filtering out? Do you think there's some some looks that you might take in that group, or are you trying to stay away from that because of how unpredictable those 3 players are?
Yeah, it's really hard to go against Justin Thomas, especially how he's been playing as of late. I am a big Finau guy. I took him, I think last year or 2 years ago. He won. I forget what tournament he won. He was like 50-1 though. I had him there. So I've always been a big Finau guy. Hovland I feel like he's one of the sneaky guys. Like, casual fans don't really know him, but like big golf fans, like, no, he's like one of the legit guys. Those 3, it would be hard for me not to take Justin Thomas. Personally, when I do my matchups, I'm 13-3, not a big deal. My matchups, I like to do it after the first day. I want to see how everyone's playing, how everyone's reacting to the course. And then, well, like you said, I might get a Justin Thomas against, a guy who's ranked 80th in a matchup where I really find some value in, these top guys playing more consistent golf. That's really what I look for in these round matchups. Guys who, they're going to give me a -2, a -3 instead of a -5, and then you have a par day. It's like, I need consistency for my matchups. But for that 3-man, it's really hard not to go Justin Thomas.
Yeah, no, I think, again, JT, I think, is one of he's one of the betting favorites going in, but he's another guy that seems like he's got the mojo going right now. I think there's a lot of guys in the sport. I think this is what's making it so fun. There's a lot of guys right now that are kind of really showing that they belong at the top. And I think this, obviously Scotty's number 1 right now, but I feel like it's an absolute battle in that top 10. Guys coming in and out, because it's just a lot of guys have good weeks and they string together a couple of top 20s, and there they are, right in competition on seemingly every Saturday, Sunday. I think one of the other things, I know we talked a little bit at the beginning about maybe some long shots. You gave us Sam Burns at 30-1. I think I've got him at 22-1 now.
I got him I got him like Monday or so, a couple days ago.
Love
So
that. Love that. I mean, it's best. Hey, get him early,
yeah,
especially with a guy like Sam Burns, who, with his length and his ability to strike the ball. I mean, he can contend anywhere, especially on a golf course this challenging. I don't really know much about the Country Club.
yeah, I
It's
don't
a
know.
venue that I haven't heard a lot about. Obviously, maybe there was a U.S. Open there recently, but honestly, thinking back in my memory, I can't remember one. It might be the first time there. Um, do you have any kind of insight in terms of certain players, maybe certain guys that might not even names, but just how the course might impact some of the ways you're looking for value in players, like distance, iron play, like you mentioned earlier with Morikawa, or do we think putting might be something to look at?
Yeah, based off what I've heard on this course, obviously with the U.S. Open, they're going to make them as tough as they can play. The greens are going to be running really fast. The rough, I saw a couple of videos of the rough. Is like that is no. I mean, I want no part of that thing. So I'm really looking for guys who are, their driving accuracy. That's really one
Hmm.
of the. That's what kind of led me to John Rahm. He's 46th in accuracy, fifth in distance for his driver. One of the best drivers in all of golf. That's kind of what I'm looking for. But I have like a little fun fact about this course. Matthew Fitzpatrick. There might be some value there. He won a tournament in college at this course, and he often vacations in that area and plays this course. So he has a little bit of history there. Maybe taking him top 20 wouldn't be a bad bet there.
Yeah. No, it's funny because I feel like his name has creeped up the betting charts right now. I mean, I'm looking at him right now. I mean, just on the Bovada Sportsbook, I got him at 28-1, which, I mean, Fitzpatrick is a name in the sport right now, but I wouldn't say he's one of the bigger names. Definitely kind of keeps himself in the weeds a little bit. He's also playing with DJ on the first 2 days, which also could add a little bit of suspense to it, maybe add a little bit more eyes to his group. So I don't know if it's going to be pressure, maybe pressure off of him.
Yeah,
Honestly, I
that's
feel
what I
like that
was
maybe
thinking.
will
Like
help him.
everyone's gonna be looking at Dustin Johnson. He might just be floating under the radar there. I'm looking at him plus for him to be in the top 20 again, a plus 130. So him, coming off a good weekend last weekend, he played really good in Canada. He was contending against Rory. I was getting a little nervous. He kind of fell off a little bit towards the end.
Hmm.
But top 20, you're getting a plus sign with one of the better golfers in the world. I don't hate it at all.
No, I think that little fun fact that you gave too maybe just gives a little bit more credence, right?
Yeah.
A guy that knows the course. I mean, just as a golfer myself, right? I'm so much more comfortable
Oh
at
yeah.
a course that even I've seen 5 times, 10 times. You have a history of playing there. You've seen it in good conditions. You've seen it in bad conditions. You've seen it in with the thick rough, thin rough, greens rolling fast. You get a lot of different. There's a background, right?
Yeah.
Background is so huge. Um, so I think that is a really interesting proposition to see if maybe you can find some value in Fitzpatrick and even just something maybe he struggles on the first 2 days because of the DJ stuff. Maybe he does great. Maybe he's kind of up at the top of the leaderboard early. But even if he kind of struggles the first 2 days, I think there's a good chance he makes a big push on the weekend. Just again knowing the course.
Yeah, he's definitely going to be one of those guys to be eyeing up on the matchups in day 2 or 3. See if I can get someone, where he's going to be ranked against a guy who's ranked 100th or, someone who's not as consistent. I wouldn't hate Fitzpatrick there.
Yeah. Well, I want to go with one more. I mean, I know we kind of talked about again. I've gone back and forth about a couple of long shots. I know you're not a big long shot guy.
Yeah.
It seems like, especially when it comes to the U.S. Open, which I think is probably the best way to bet it. I think you need to really stay with these leaders because, again, we're in challenging conditions. These guys really have to be on their games. But there's still a couple of names that I feel like always are kind of in the hunt. A guy like Louis Oosthuizen, who likes to work his way into the top 5, or like an Adam Scott who's at 150-1 right now, which seems crazy for him. I mean, he seems like he's been playing some decent golf, and he's always been a good major guy. So if you had me in mind, are there any long shots that maybe someone could sprinkle a little bit of just
Yeah.
pizza money on?
Yeah.
to feel good and maybe have a chance going into the weekend with like a plus 10,000 bet.
I'm looking at a guy right now, Justin Rose, 65-1. And, if anybody watched last weekend on Sunday when he was absolutely unconscious. Like I thought for a second that he was gonna be like him and Roy were gonna have a playoff for a second. Well, he shot a 60. I mean, you talk about
He was on
momentum.
56 watch. Yeah,
Yeah,
he was on 56 watch at one
yeah,
point.
it was
Yeah.
ridiculous. You talk about a guy with momentum, 65-1. Is he gonna win? Probably not. These are long shots for a reason. He's 65-1 for a reason. But a little sprinkle on it, I wouldn't hate it at all. And then another guy that I like, Abraham Answer. It's just something about him. Like he's just always really, really consistent. Like he's going to be in the top 40. He's going to sneak up in the top 20. He might have a good couple, first day or so, where you might find himself at the end where you can start hedging out with some of these better guys. So, those are two I'm looking at right now.
Well, I think Rose is an interesting one too. I mean, he is a U.S. Open winner, right?
Yeah.
He won in that part of the country, kind of. I mean, Marion's up in that area a little bit. I mean, I'm not an East Coast guy, so maybe I'm a little bit far off with my geography. But I know Massachusetts, and I think Marion is in New Jersey or like Pennsylvania. So,
Yeah, they're close.
maybe he's just fairly close.
Yeah.
Fairly close. Yeah, you're tossing me a bone right now. But I feel like again, with the history of being a winner. He knows how to do it. He had a great week last week. Maybe he's just got that feeling. I mean, that round that he played was the best round of golf I think I've ever seen someone play. And I think he had a bogey on the 9th, which is a par 5, and then came in with 2 bogeys. And it was like, I mean, man, if he doesn't make those bogeys on 16 and 18, he's fighting for 58, right? It's crazy the numbers that he was putting up. So he really, especially with his firepower, the way he's playing right now, if he can throw up a 60 there, why not, why can't he throw up a 60, maybe not a 60, but, why can't he go low and, put some pressure on some of these other top guys? And 65-1, I mean, those are huge odds when you're talking about a guy with that kind of pedigree, and that kind of, again, momentum that you're talking about. I think Abe Answer I'm a big Abe Answer fan. I think if you're not an Abe Answer fan, I don't know how you can't be. But again, I feel like maybe not the casual fan knows how great he is and how consistent he is and how good of a putter he is and all these different things that he just does so well. But I think, again, as a long shot, I don't even know. I think I've got him at 100-1. I mean, that just, it seems like, I might even just sprinkle a couple bucks on him to finish top 10 just because I think he's got a really good chance to contend. And consistency is really key when it comes to tough golf courses, especially, U.S. Open kind of level stuff. Well, I mean, this has been an awesome episode. I feel like we've covered a lot in terms of this week. I mean, it's going to be a good weekend. I'm really excited to watch the coverage. I want to leave you, CJ. I want to let you kind of finish things off. If you have any last thoughts, I feel like we covered a lot, but there could be some names or some things you're thinking about that maybe we didn't highlight.
Yeah, I have a couple of nationality props. It's something. It's a couple of fun bets. When it's a major, I like to throw a couple more out there. I got Cam Smith to be the top Australian. I got him plus 120. Like I said, just fun. He's going to go up against Adam Scott, Mark Leishman, Lucas Herbert. Just not a whole lot of names there that I'm really thinking. Cam Smith playing some really good golf. I got another one, Corey Connors to be the top Canadian, plus 130. I watched a lot last weekend. Corey Connors is kind of the guy that Canada's really getting behind. You got Adam Hadwin and Mackenzie Hughes, some other guys. But another one I see some value there in Corey Connors. And then my last one, I have the top Asian player, Hideki Matsuyama, plus 225. He's actually not the favorite in this bet. Sung J M is. But Matsuyama, you talk about a guy who can, when he has it, he really, really has it. And I think he's going to play some good golf this weekend. So those are my 3. just fun bets. I wouldn't do it if it wasn't a major, if it wasn't the U.S. Open. So, just a little bit extra for you.
Well, I think that's why this U.S. Open is so fun, right? You get guys, you get the whole world, you get a lot of different kind of fun props that you can put in. I love the nationality bets. I think we talked about that in Masters Week as well. They're just fun ways to sprinkle money onto some of these guys that, maybe they're not going to win the tournament,
Yeah.
but, they could finish just high enough where if they just beat a couple of their own countrymen, then you're coming out on top. You're coming out in the green. So, CJ, thank you. That was awesome. Great insight. I think all golf fans are excited for this weekend. I think, again, like we said at the beginning, this is a crazy time in golf, not just because it's the U.S. Open, but because of the Live Golf Series, because of Phil, because Tiger's kind of trying to work his way back. There's just a lot going on. But this is a Tigerless week, and yet we still have a lot of buildup going in. So I'm excited. If you're watching this, you can find CJ on Twitter at BettingTheBall. Subscribe to him on DubClub. Follow him on Twitter. He's a golf guy. What other sports are you covering, CJ?
So I do baseball, basketball, a little bit of hockey is something I kind of found myself, but golf is kind of the one where I started betting a couple years ago. I really do think I found something in golf. I had Justin Thomas for the PGA. I had Rory this past weekend. I feel like my eyes are there. So, those are my ones.
So take John Rahm this week or Sam Burns, one of the two,
Yep.
or both. Maybe
Both.
maybe they have a playoff to see who
that'd
wins
be great.
it. Who knows? But I think again, your track record explains it all. That's why we had you on this week. We want to bring in the best and hear from the best and a guy that's hot. We got to stay hot, right? Let's get some more bets on the board and hope we can keep making money. CJ, thank you. This has been a blast. I'll have you on again. I mean, God, golf never ends, right? We got plenty to talk about. Thank you.